Cardinal planet, Earth experience. Cardinal planet, be the change. Cardinal planet for a sustainable future.
Okay. Hi guys. So today I'm going to be talking, this is a part 2 part 1 from my reflection video that will come out later on in the month. But I wanted to talk about my application process and how I got this internship. So COVID happened. At the time I was working full-time and not at Stanford. I was taking a gap. Because I hadn't taken any classes, I was not eligible for any funding through the School of Earth. So, or for that matter, any program at Stanford. That was scary. I remember sending so many things to ZipRecruiter, never hearing back, or trying to apply to, like, I would cold email a bunch of environmental education companies and did not get any responses back. So I remember being kind of bummed about that and also worried what that meant. But I got this email on the listserv one day, so it was still through a Stanford network, and they had said, like, apply now, this is a field internship, and we're gonna have you work for like 7 weeks and whatnot, and it's with this new conservancy called the JMT Wilderness Conservancy. And I had known a couple of friends who had done it the year before, and they were the first cohort. So I remember applying. It was a really brief application, like 5 questions, each only like 100 words or less, and then your resume, and then there was an interview. And I actually didn't get it the first time around. They rejected me. There were too many good applicants. They were only looking for 3 people, and I remember being really bummed and not sure what to do about it. But I sent this follow-up email kind of stating my continued interest and talking about how the work that they were doing really interests me, and whether it is in the capacity of an intern or like a volunteer or something in the future. Like, I would love, in short, it was like a continued interest email saying, I would love to continue learning from you guys and being involved in whatever capacity I can. If any other opportunities arise, please let me know. So a month passes, and this is now like April. I get or no, maybe it was March. No, that's a lie. It was like February. I'm sorry, I applied in like December. February, a month passes, I get another call, and they couldn't find, they had 2 programs going on, one of which was Stanford and one was at UC Merced, and there were some complications where they couldn't find any candidates at the other institution, and because of that they were kind of coming back and going through other applicants, and they asked if I was interested, and then I accepted the position. So let me talk about the internship itself. So initially it was supposed to be 5 weeks long, but then it got extended into 8 weeks, and then it turned into 7 weeks because of the fires. And they stressed this a lot in the beginning, how flexibility was really important, particularly in working in a remote situation. Remote being not on the internet, but like far away, and with it depended on the snow melt and when we could enter. And we ended up leaving July 1st. And prior to that, we had 10 weeks, I think, roughly, of training where we talked about food and planning and developed our personal projects that we had to do, and talked about like logistical aspects and also getting our gear in check. Hello, I'm testing out my pack right now, and this is like a very small trail near Stanford that people usually run, and no one backpacks on, so I'm feeling kind of silly, but that's okay. Yes. I personally I didn't have any gear, and the internship was really great about helping me secure like a deal for discounted backpacks and tents and such. And they were also providing the gear that you didn't have and just couldn't get for whatever reason at the end of it. So, and the food is also all planned out by our sponsors and stuff. And anyways, so during the training, they kind of asked about our dietary restrictions. We worked on intergroup dynamics. The whole premise of this internship was to gather enough data to help forward a grant that would be, I think, $50 million from the government of California to help support our restoration efforts and all the local stakeholders and agencies in the area. So we had 5 different tours, each of which were 9 days. So we'd go 9 days out, and then we'd have 3 days at a base camp, which was next to this place called Myrtle Ranch. It was like it was still intense because it was so far away. So from Fresno, you'd have to drive like 3 hours and then go take a boat, a ferry for like 15-20 minutes, but it's like a 3-mile walk around this lake, and then from there you get to walk 4 miles, and then you finally get to the base camp. So really remote. We like trucked in all our food in the very beginning, and each day we'd go like 9 days out and then 3 days at this base camp. And our range was from Muir Pass to Selton Pass, which I think is like a 30-mile, 40-mile stretch. Probably like 50, 30, 40, 50, 30 to 50 mile stretch. And the first tour and the 5th tour, we had worked with local groups, particularly like the rangers and these wildlife biologists and these environmental consultants who specialize in archaeology. So with the wildlife biologists, we were up in McGee Canyon. We had to like cross country through, and this was the 5th year of a much larger project that was going on concurrently in Yosemite and here, and they were working on to help the endangered mountain yellow-legged frog. And there were all these invasive fish that were dropped in the 1900s, and for recreational use. And those invasive fish, oftentimes trout, would end up eating the tadpoles or the eggs of the frogs, and consequently they had to do this whole fish removal process. What that looked like on our day-to-day level was logging the fish we caught, and we could catch them 2 ways. One of which was electrofishing, having these rods and wearing these thick rubber outfits and putting them in these streams to kind of stun them and then scooping them up and then killing them, or using gill nets and these things called U-boats, which are big floaties effectively, and going out into these bigger lakes and getting the gill nets and taking the fish and removing them off of there. So that was great. They were very cool. It was so fun to work with them and to learn about the ecology and the animals in the area. And then the other main group that we worked with were the archaeologists. If we needed to reroute the trail, because let's say it was lowering the water table because it was too down cut, we would have to first do an archaeological survey to make sure or be aware of what sort of historical significance certain stretches of trail could have. So we would be looking around for obsidian flakes with these archaeologists, and also for BMRs, or bed motor pastels. So those were the 2 pieces of like stakeholder engagement / working with other local agency component of the internship. The bulk of it was collecting data for this grant, and it came in 3 forms: encounter surveys, campsite surveys, and trail surveys. So trail and campsite went together, but typically we were looking for human recreationally impacted sites. For instance, looking at how down-cut a trail was, whether it was braided, whether there was a social trail leading to a place, and also looking at campsites. So which ones had a lot of human waste sites, which ones were still on recovering meadow, which ones were too close to water or too close to trail. And we'd log these all and like piece them out and look at the depths, and sometimes you would look at like a huge boulder and be like, no way someone's gonna camp up there, but because you just have to check, you'd like bolt up there, and then inevitably there would be like some firing in some tent pad that was there, which is just like, yikes. So that took up the bulk of our days. We typically got up at like 7, we started work at 8 and got up at like 6:37, and then we finished at like 2, 3, in like an ideal situation. Some days though, like you're subject to the whims of the weather, and if there will be a thunderstorm in the afternoon, or you think it looks a little cloudy, you might leave at like, I know one day we left at 6 a.m. to go work because the thunderstorm was coming in, and we had to get there and hide in our tents in that case, and it wouldn't be safe. Also, I know there were days that we were just like caught in a thunderstorm and it was scary and we just had to evacuate. Here's a clip of that. We are currently heading back from field research with a big pack. It started thundering and raining. Yes. Oh, and the other aspect of our work, we had no surveys. So here we looked at the trail, and this was for the National Park Service. We were working on the trail for 2 hours in one direction, 2 hours back, maintaining a steady pace, kind of seeing who was on the trail, where they were going, where they had entered from, just trying to get a sense of what were popular campsites and where it was more concentrated, whether we saw more on weekends and weekdays. We also had off days. On those off days, it was so fun to get to know the people that we were staying with. They had lived on this land for like 3 generations, and they first purchased it as overflow/swamp land, and we were able to do a lot of, first of all, most importantly, we were able to get some warm showers, which was amazing. We could like split logs and put them in to this little like stove, which heated up the water, and we also got fresh vegetables, which was huge. We also got to do a lot of adventures, like cliff jumping and looking in the area, and like just exploring things off-trail that we wouldn't be able to otherwise, and that most JMTers, this trail that I was working on, wouldn't be able to do because they would just be hiking through it. We also at some point learned how to forage, which was super exciting. It was mostly berries and swamp onions and mushrooms. There were lemon boletes and porcinis, and I remember we made mushroom stew one night. We put like swamp onion on. Another night we just put it into our backpacking wheels, and that was so great. There were just so many beautiful things. Yeah, I can't explain it, so I'll put in a montage. Those are all like little logistical aspects of the piece, and the personal project is kind of the final deliverable that we need to do, and it's really open-ended. I know people in the past have done ArcGIS mapping of different obsidian flakes and cultural artifacts that they've found, and others did more public-facing videos of leave no trace principles that would be given or could be viewed by hikers going out. And I really appreciate this aspect of it because I think because it was so open-ended, you could have a lot of different people on your internship. For instance, we had a material science major, an environmental systems engineer, and the geological or systems person. And I think each of those created a very unique perspective and consequently a very unique personal project. So here's some small insights that maybe I can offer to people who are applying to their internships, their first internships. We're trying to decide what internship to even do. I'm someone who's kind of neurotic and will just apply right when I see something. So if it comes out July 1st, I'll like send it out like within that week. I think casting a wide net can be great and really helpful. So applying to like maybe 10 to 15 internships. But I also think at the end of the day, like I would only really devote my time to like 3 or 2, the ones that I found particularly helpful or interesting. I also think talking to people who had done the internship before can be really helpful, trying to understand what the partnership will be like, what your work will be like, and establishing and just understanding like whether or not this company is one that you want to work with, whether or not they really support their interns, whether you need support in the first place. So I think doing an internship with both a previous person, if you can find them, and most students at all, I just generally are willing to help. I think if you just cold email them and say, hey, I saw on your LinkedIn or I saw on their website that you worked for them previously, can I ask you about it? I know I did the same thing for one of my friends for this internship this summer. and also having an informational interview with the company that you want to work for or the person that you want to work for. And I think just trying to get a sense if they can afford that time, you know, getting a sense for what they're like and what their work style like is and whether it'll mesh. And I think in that way it's like a two-way street. It's not just you say like, I'll work for whatever and I'll do whatever hours, because I definitely have been that person. And then in terms of resources, if you guys are still looking for internships or unsure what you want to do, you can always reach out to earthadvising@stanford.edu. We're happy to help you. And yes, so this is my summer internship. This is how I got the job. This is what I did. And if you guys have any questions, let us know. Thanks for watching. Also, because it's fun, here are some clips.
It's so majestic.
Okay.